But we want to bring up to you Tony Comtois. Now, he's going to share his story of what it was like for him being on the street as well. And he's also going to share with you his story of recovery and what his life is like now that his life has been turned around. And every day his life is about striving to get others on a better path for their life, just as is the case with him. And I think you'll notice this possibly from the attire that he's wearing tonight. He loves working with our Friends Without an Address, and he says it keeps him centered and serves as a healthy reminder of what he once was and the need to stay focused, to not go back to those old ways. Please welcome Tony Comtois. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Do I really need this? Do I really need this thing? First off, I got to take a selfie with you guys if you don't mind. Everybody say hi. Okay, cool. Now that I got that out of the way. So anyway, my name's Tony Comtois, and I'm the mentor, See You at Home, street outreach coordinator, housing coordinator, whatever you want to call it. I carry this thing around because this right here means a lot to me. I've had it with me ever since I turned my life around. It's my backpack. My mom dropped me off in Champaign-Urbana on July 5th of 2006. It was roughly about 10 o'clock in the morning. And because I woke up and I was doing a lot of things in the community I was in, and I just decided one day that enough is enough, and I was like, I got to make some changes. And my mom's first response was, what treatment center are you going to? And I told her, I said, I don't need treatment. I need to get closer to these meetings that I go to that some of you might know about, some of you might not know about it. It's an anonymous thing, so I'm not really going to talk about it a lot. But I just had to get closer, and they were talking about the shelter earlier. I'm a shelter guy. I spent a lot of time on the street, but I was never street homeless. I was shelter homeless. And the shelters are huge, and we really need to get them back in this community, because had I not had that place, the Time Center is where I got sober at. Had I not had it, I went in there, I remember, and I see this guy, Scott, and I still see him around. He works for Rosecrans now. He told me, I told him, I'm really screwed up and I need a lot of time to work on myself. And he said, that's great, because this is the Time Center and we can give you some time to work on yourself. So it worked out really good. I lived in the Time Center for 22 months, turning my life around. Because if the guys that are like me, there was 28 years of a train wreck before I decided to change my life. So it took a lot of time to turn it around, and I'm still trying to turn it around. I'm still really screwed up in my head some days. Some days are better than others, I was having a moment about 2 hours ago, as a matter of fact, where I was ready to just go, what's going on, But I don't know, it's crazy. I remember one lady in the Time Center that used to work there, she told me, she said, Tony, you're really nosy. And it was like, I talked to my sponsor about it in the program I'm in, and he said, you're not nosy, man. He said, what it is you walked around in a fog for a long time, and the fog has been lifted, and he said, you are just well aware of what's going on around you today. And it kind of helps me out with what I do today. I drive down the street, and I cannot see things that other people are like, how did you see that? And it's like, I don't know, I just do. I'm fascinated with the homeless community, you could call it, amazed by it, whatever. I really enjoy working with the guys. I know some of the guys from when I was in the shelter. They were in the shelter with me. I know some of the guys because I used to drink and do drugs with some of the guys. And I just really care about them a lot. And I like to try and get back into their heads so I can figure out how to try and help them. I take it to the extreme of when I go on vacation, I like to go check out the homeless community in other areas. I'm driving around. If you ever go on vacation with me, you're probably going to end up in a homeless shelter somewhere. I found another. I was in Akron, Ohio at a recovery-related event last year. Sunday morning, they have a big Harley-Davidson run where they go to one of the founding fathers' gravesite. And I decided I'm going to go park on the side of the road where all the bikes are going to go by. And I noticed these guys walking by, and I go around the corner of the building, and there's a canteen run. I was like, wow, I found the canteen run of Akron, Ohio. Little did I realize I was standing next to the homeless shelter. I'm like, man, I just can't get away from this stuff. But since I started doing this thing, and I say this, I don't do this thing, I get to do this thing. It's not something I necessarily chose to do. It just kind of happened. I came along. Me and Melanie have talked about this. I don't even know the date. I wish we could call this detox center and find out when this guy showed up. I come along as a volunteer out of the church that the men's shelter is in Sunday through Thursday. There's a janitor that works at that church that I was in a detox unit with in 2004, and Melanie needed some help with something. And he said, I think I know this guy that might be able to help you out. I was working at Prairie Center at the time. I got off work at 3 o'clock. I went over and met the guy in the park, picked him up, took him to a detox in Peoria. And I learned a lot from that trip. It was the first time I'd ever done something like that. And everything that could have went wrong did. I got back just in time to go to work the next morning. And luckily, I got to do the mail run that day. And I went home while I was doing the mail run. I took a shower and changed clothes and then came back to work. But I was working at the treatment center. Due to a chain of events, I left the treatment center. And I started to work part-time at a shelter. I didn't really know what I was doing. I took off to prove what I don't know what I'm doing is. In between jobs, I don't have a job. I've just entered into a brand new truck loan, $13,000 truck loan. And I talked to the guys at the shelter that I'm gonna start working for, and I take off for 10 days and go to Florida on my credit cards for some reason or another. So I'm kind of rebounding from that still. It just goes to show we don't know what we're doing all the time. But I come back, and I'm working part-time at shelter. I'm working part-time for Melanie at See You at Home. We're in this little tiny office cave up in the corner of this church. And I work part-time for a apartment complex that is also due for people that are homeless. You have to be homeless to move into the apartment complex. So I'm like just homeless all the way around. And I was working at the Salvation Army. My sponsor in the program that I work at he's currently my sponsor. He was my supervisor at the time at the shelter. They offered me a full-time position, and Melanie offered me a full-time position, which was something really weird because See You at Home told me, they said, we think it's time for us to grow, and we need you to grow. And it was really weird because most people were telling me, we need you to go away. So it was a strange thing. And I went to this guy that was my supervisor, and I said, I don't really know what to do, man. I said, this Salvation Army, you're looking at the Salvation Army. They're strong. They're nationwide, worldwide, this strong organization. And this little tiny organization is offering me a position too. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And the way I relate things is like, the Salvation Army could go to war with another nation, and they're strong. See You at Home was so small at the time and still is so small. I said, man, these guys can get run over by a street gang. And he told me, he goes, Tony, he goes, you got to go over there, man. He goes, I would love to have you work here. He goes, but I think you belong over there. And I went over there, and shortly after I went to See You at Home, the men's shelter closed. I would have lost my job, So I don't always know what's best for me. I always have to run stuff by people. But I'm rambling probably. I don't even know what time. Which was the clock to look at? Is that clock right? Right there? Okay, cool. But anyway, it's weird, They talk about God puts certain people in my life, and I don't know, I can't pick and choose who He puts in my life or what direction I'm supposed to go in my life. And since I've just started to take direction from other people in my life, because I'm one of them people that just can't receive a message. I think my receptors are broke, so I got to talk to somebody and say, hey, what's supposed to be going on today? I get my message through other people. But I believe that I'm not the person that should be guiding my life. And since then, I started working with all these people, and it's just really strange for me, I can't tell you, to be talking in front of all these people. It's strange. See You at Home recently started doing something. We're trying to really expand what we're doing and help within the community. I got to say this first, too. When I came on board with See You at Home, I remember sitting in the basement of the old Phoenix bar, which was our old drop-in center, with Mike Royce and Melanie. And I said, there's only one way I'm going to do this thing. And I said, we're all going to work together or I'm not going to do it. I said, there's not going to be any more canteen run, community elements, the Prairie Center, this and that. I said, this is going to be a team effort, or I don't want nothing to do with it. Because I said, I thought we need everybody to help everybody. This can't be, because there was some my people, their people, this and that going on. And I said, all that has to stop, or I can't do this. I just want to help people. That's all I want to do. And they were like, cool, we're on board, and I love the canteen run. Warren right here, I like working with, you'll see me out following the canteen around. Pat Connolly back there, Chief of Police, Champaign Police. We recently started, the police departments have graciously let me come into their briefings, which is really weird. The police call me. I don't have them called on me. Getting to meet all these cops, they talk to me, which is really weird. They don't chase me around anymore and this and that. And I really feel like guys like me owe it back to the community. We sat in all the Urbana briefings already, met all the Urbana cops. There was one that wasn't there, and the funny thing is, she's my old probation officer from like 2004 or something like that. Shannon. She called in that day, I think. I don't know if she knew I was there or not. But we're going to do Champaign week after next, and then we're going to do the U of I 2 weeks after that. And what it is we want to be able to come out into the community when they have that problem child, I'll call them, in the community, because arrest is not the answer anymore. The county jail is full of other people that need to be there. These guys don't need to be there. You cannot punish a street guy. Write him a ticket, do whatever you want to do to him. He really does not care. I know, I've been there. It's like, hey, you got me wrestled down to the ground, put me in the back of the car, take me. I used to say all the time in Rantoul, when we were drinking in Rantoul, getting ready to go out drinking, and call the brown cab later on, because we're going to Champaign, because the sheriff's cars were all brown. And it's like a break. Lock me up. Give me a break from the street. Give me a break from myself for a little while. And the only thing is to talk to people like me. So we want to, and plus, alcoholic drug addict like I am, if you tell me to go in one direction, I'm not going in that direction. So I believe if they're out there and we're out there, now they got an option. They might actually go somewhere. They have a choice instead of being told, go here, go there. Because that doesn't work with people like me. Melanie knows that. Rob is learning that. Rantoul Police Department knows that. But it's just great to do this. Stuff like this. This is huge. It's amazing, this thing. How I really first became aware of See You at Home. And I'll share this story, and then I guess I'll ask some questions, because I think or answer some questions, not ask them. I drove by the first one winter night. My buddy Gil was in a box. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, yeah, this thing, that thing. And I said, all right, whatever. And I told him I had to go to work at Prairie Center on Hill Street, 6 o'clock next morning. I said, I'll swing by in the morning, I'll say hi to you. I drive by and he's gone. I approached him a couple days later. I said, where'd you go, Gil? He said, well, it started raining and my box collapsed, so I went home. And I said, Gil, you can't do that. The homeless guys can't run home. And he goes, if you think it's so easy, why don't you go try it? So I've been in a box ever since. I'm one of the guys that pushes the rules. Melanie's had to tell me I can't have certain things because I like to push the limits on everything that I do. But I tell you this, if you're an employer, my suggestion is this. If you can find an alcoholic or a drug addict like me, and you can get me pointed in the right direction, and you can get me doing something that they really enjoy to do, you're going to have the greatest employee you've ever had. Because when we are all in, we are all in. There is, they say it, half measures do us no avail. I do not halfway do things. I will come out in the middle of the night. I love doing this. I've sacrificed in my personal life to do this since, but I believe this. If I don't do this, I'm going to go back to the old ways, and then there's not going to be anybody in my life anyway. But I thank y'all, and I think that's enough. Any questions? I still struggle daily. I have not had the desire to drink or use except for one time. It's been a little over 10 years, 10 and a half years or whatever. I almost drank right before I went to the International Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous in Atlanta. Of all things, I'm getting ready to go sit with 65,000 people in a meeting, and my mind tells me, the hell with this, it's time to check out and go have a drink. But luckily, like I said, God puts people in my life. I got another guy in recovery, a job at the apartment complex where I work at, because there's two of us. One guy takes care of outside, one guy takes care of the inside. I go out the door to get in my truck to go have a drink, and here comes John pulling in the parking lot. He says, "Where are you going?" And I told him, and he goes, No. Go back in the house. So, yeah, those struggles real. But some days are better than others. I think everybody struggles. What do we all struggle with? Everybody has their own struggle. Thank you. Anybody else? I can ramble. Over here? Was there somebody else? No? Over here? Yeah?
Not a question, just a comment. I really appreciate your openness and your honesty and sharing with us the story, because it's every man's story.
Well, yeah. So I don't mind sharing things, because I used to think that nobody knew what I was doing. But the truth of the matter is, I had a buddy of mine come up to me after I got clean, and he goes, "I'm glad you're here, man." He goes, "I got sick of watching you make drug deals in the bread aisle in IGA and Rantoul." I thought you do it out in the open, nobody sees it. But that's not the case. So it's not really, nothing I did is really a secret anyway. You know, like sometimes, like she said something about, do you struggle? People like me, I believe, because I have had this thought go through my head. I found my daughter after 20, I was working at Prairie Center. Prairie Center was just bringing me on in 2009 full time after the detox reopened. That's not open anymore. I found my daughter, who I'd never met. I'm 2 years sober. I go out of town, and I'm going to go to Huntsville, Alabama to meet my daughter. And one of the things that goes through my mind is, I'm leaving town. Can I have a drink without anybody knowing about it? But the truth of the matter is, people like me, when I drink, the police are coming, the news crews are coming. It's not going to be a secret. You know, so it's like, don't. So there's no secret in my life. I'm a pretty open book about everything. Anything else? I love this law enforcement standing here watching me talk. This is crazy. These guys are supposed to be chasing me down an alley somewhere with a can of pepper spray. But, you know, the cool thing is this, and then I'll say this. A lot of people have, like, asked me to do this and this and that, and I'll say this. I want to get to a point with this. There's another guy. Where'd he go? He ran off. He must have knew I was going to talk about him. Where you at, Terry? There he is. That's how blind I am, right in front of him. I'm not the only one that does this. This is a guy that come up through our organization. He works for us now, and I would like to, in the spirit of rotation, as I've learned, move out of the way and let him do this, because it's cool. It's really cool. If you get the opportunity, all the people in the treatment centers that are in here that know this, some people don't realize this goes on. But when you work with somebody, when you get the opportunity to see that light come on, it's freaking crazy. It gives me goosebumps. And this guy gives me goosebumps. I love him to death. You know, I'm hoping someday that he's starting to come out with me, and it really is crazy. You know, you got two homeless ex-drug addict alcoholics that have wreaked havoc in their home community, and now we're in this community, and we want to give back to the police departments in this community and give back to the street. So it's a real privilege to work with you guys. But we good? I don't want to run over. I'll stand here and ramble forever. I love talking to people. Because I stood in the room high for so long and never said anything. I got a lot of things to say, I guess. But I love working with KJ, Melanie. Melanie's a blessing. Yeah. Scott back there. In the Time Center. Yeah. A guy like me in the Time Center. If you look me up on the internet, I'm the guy where you take 2 steps back. Very violent, alcoholic, drug addict. Not the nicest guy in the room. We have this saying around recovery community, pause, pray, and proceed. I used to be punch, kick, and push was my motto. And a lot of people denied me employment. So I aimed real low. If you're ever struggling in life for employment or whatever, I'll tell you what, go get that job nobody else wants. There's people out there that do want to hire people. You know, don't try and run the company. Try cleaning the bathroom first. I got a part-time job working for a cleaning company. I used to have to travel from the Time Center out to the car lot that's way out there on 45 or whatever. And it didn't matter, snow or not. Like I say, a guy like me, when you want employment, you're going to go get it. And I chased that employment, and I went out there, and somehow we lost the contract. Might have been because it's a bunch of ex-felons. I don't know. We weren't all completely on board, but some of us were. Then I got a job. Then it's weird. Then I landed a job at County Market all the way on the other side of town, Kirby and Duncan, stocking shelves overnight. And I did that for 2 years until Prairie Center was kind enough to give me an opportunity. I came on part-time with Prairie Center, and then all of a sudden, there's some people that don't want to work that much, and me being like I was, I covered every shift that was there, and the director of the facility at the time, before, actually pre-Bruce. No, Bruce was there, because I met Bruce through a friend of mine. She goes, I might as well hire you full-time. You're here all the time anyway. Kind of like Melanie. He's around all the time anyway. There's a bus driver in my early recovery. He offered me a ride one day. The guy, probably the biggest mistake the guy made. I followed him around for 8 months everywhere he went. I'm just kind of that way. If I like you, I'm going to follow you around, spend a lot of time around you. I follow Warren around in the canteen run. You know, I follow Pat around. I have lunch with Pat. I love having lunch. Who'd think a guy like me gets to have lunch with the chief of police? You know, that he will text me and say, "How you doing today, Tony?" You know, it's crazy, but it's a struggle. It's real. You know, I had my first drink at the age of 12. The police were involved, and it was a train wreck for the next 28 years. Drink police, drug police, treatment centers, jails, this and that. And then one day I woke up and I decided to change my life and hang around with the right people, and it happened. It just goes to show you, surround yourself with good, and good will come, you know, the whole thing. They loved me until I could learn to love myself, and I believe that's what this organization is trying to do. The canteen run's trying to do, Prairie Center's trying to do. Austin's place, it's crazy. I get a phone call a little while ago. I'm standing over there. It's a friend of mine in the recovery community. She needs some help with a girl. She says, "Do you know anywhere?" I said, "As a matter of fact, I do, and I think they're here." And I get to hand her the phone so she can talk to them to help them out. You know, stuff like that don't happen in my old world. Tony don't call me, and Tony go away. And now it's like, "Hey, Tony, can you help me?" And it's really amazing. And like I said, it's only because I get to do this. I didn't choose to do it. Some days I don't even want to do it, but I do it anyway. But I hope you guys stick around. There's another guy, too, that's going to talk in a little while. I don't know where he is. But, yeah. One more question. Best way I've heard it said is I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I woke up one day in my apartment, and I had nothing left to sell that was worth any value. The power wasn't on. And Rantoul, they didn't turn your water off at the time, so I still had water. And I was just looked at my girlfriend, and I said, "I can't do it anymore." I grabbed a change of clothes and a Walmart plastic. They call them urban tumbleweeds. Grabbed one of them, and I was fortunate enough that my mom bought me this, and she said, "I'm going to at least buy you this to carry your clothes in. I don't want you walking around with a Walmart trash bag." And she said, and she goes, "I wish you the best of luck. I can't help you anymore. Talk to somebody else." And me and my mom have a great relationship today. You know, it's because she cut me out, but that's it. There's the other guy.
It's great. Thank you, Tony. That's so good.